In the world of gaming, a setting or genre carries certain expectations about the experience. What should be there, what shouldn't, mechanics that shape the experience can make it or break it. For this series, we take a look into them one at a time and at least try to unpack it. In this episode, to look at first-person shooters, I'm Not Much 23.
And I'm ChoasAssassin.
And this is Gamer Experience.
And joining us today, we have a reoccurring guest. Yeah, brain's not firing. I'm tired. Shagudo, who has joined us for character stories.
What's up?
And like in last episode, a friend of mine who wrote in a character story, Norm.
What's going on?
And if you recall, Shagudo has a short but intense experience, mainly with first-person shooters, and of course, like we like to ask all of our guests, Norm, what's your experience with gaming?
I've been gaming for probably about 20 years now, and I got experience in just about anything. Primarily first person, though.
Same with me.
Which makes you good fit for this episode.
Mm-hmm. That's why I asked them both to be on, because, I do more role-playing, you do more simulation.
Us two are more of the first-person shooters. I am more of the casual play. Norm is more of the competitive side of first-person shooters.
And, of course, first-person shooters is actually not a genre, it's a subgenre of shooting games.
This is true, because you've got stuff like first-person shooters, third-person shooters.
On-rail shooters.
Yep, looter shooters.
I believe looter shooters would be a sub-thing of depending on whether it be first-person.
You
Or
got
third
single
person.
players first
Yeah.
shooters,
You also-
multiplayers first shooters, battle royale first shooters.
And, like, fixed-position shooters.
Yep.
This is true, yep.
All of which have way too many similarities, yet so many differences.
Yup.
Of course, looking this up, I found a Screen Rant article by Nicholas Straub that actually claims that Maze War was the first-person shooter sometime in the early 1970s when they added combat.
And here I thought one of the first shooters would have been Metal Gear. That's what I always thought it was.
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah, no, 100%. 100%.
Oh.
Yeah, that would be the first shooter, yeah.
Metal Gear.
Kind of looks like,
We looked it up.
yeah, it kind of looks a little bit like the first Doom. Like Doom 64, or just straight up Doom. But yeah, no, that made sense for the first shooter.
Yeah. I probably around the time where Pong was being put into places that weren't arcades because arcades really kind of fell off.
They did. It's sad to say, but arcades really did fall off. I mean, here in town, Spokane, there is, correct me if I'm wrong, there's one or two arcade themed places that are still in town that are like, you pay like $20 at the door and you get a card for unlimited play for as long as you're there. And if you somehow happen to quote unquote run out, you can just go back up and buy more time. So, but that's arcades.
Yeah.
This is first person shooters.
Well, there are
No,
worse
there's first-person shooters for arcades.
This is true, yeah.
Yeah.
You got stuff like the Alien games, the Halo ones, where you got the gun that's mounted at the back, and you're just aiming at the stream, stuff like that.
that would be technically a first-person shooter, being on rails first-person shooter.
Yeah, it would be an on-rails FPS, yeah.
Yeah, like Time Crisis.
Yeah.
By
100%.
that logic, would Pokemon Snap be an on-rails FPS?
Not strictly a shooter, but it has so many elements of it, I'd almost count it.
I mean, you're shooting camera shots for a camera.
I would.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're stretching it a bit, buddy.
I wouldn't label Pokemon Snap as a first-person shooter. First-person.
You almost convinced us
100%.
at the start, and then you just started falling off. You're stretching it a bit, buddy.
But still, out of all of the Pokemon games and things like an on-rails FPS, which are typically hunting-like games?
True. It can be considered an on rails. I'll give it
on
that.
rails.
I'll give it that.
I'd say Pokemon in general could be considered on rail because you're going out hunting for Pokemon
This is true.
and you're throwing a ball at it
But
to try and catch it. You know what I mean?
yeah, but
So by that logic,
I think that's more of a stretch than Snap, because on Snap you can't really deviate as much as you can in the actual Pokemon games.
But
True.
what are the elements of Pokemon Snap that make it like other first-person shooters?
Well, the way I see it is, I have very little with the on rails other than the times I've been in arcades where you're walking, you're on basically like a cart, like a safari thing, and you're hunting rhinos, elephant, lions, and you're just on a fixed path, and whoever gets the biggest animal, it's and that's how I saw it as far as the fact of in Pokemon Snap, you're out in basically the Pokemon Safari on an island, taking pictures of Pokemon in the wild,
trying to get the 151.
trying to get all 151 Pokemon pictured, and you're then graded on said pictures. So I would say it's closer to an on-rails hunting style of Pokemon game.
Yeah,
And it is.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it certainly has a first-person perspective.
That it does.
I don't know if you have like an ammo counter in terms of like how much film you have.
Yes, you had a film count.
Yeah, you had
That's
film. You had film count as well as a treat count, so you could use it as bait.
Yep.
Fair.
So that'd be like the secondary fire, like a grenade or something.
Yeah,
Something like that,
You'd
yeah.
Use one of the ones you'd use a treat to get the Slowbro to throw its tail into the water and turn it into a slowpoke into a Slowbro.
That's fair.
Or the only way to get Kangaskhan to actually remove its young from its pouch was to throw a treat.
So it was more of a strategic on rails.
You had clear objectives, you have clear targets, you actually have like a quote-unquote targeting reticle.
Yep, you did.
I mean, we can go on and on about Pokemon.
Yeah, I'm trying
But
to bring
This is a first-person shooters episode.
Yeah.
So let's get back to that.
What I was trying to transition into the elements that make a first-person shooter.
That is true, and we covered a few.
So
An ammo count of some sort, I would assume. I can't think of any first-person shooters that don't have some sort of ammo system.
most first-person shooters do have an ammo system. And from what I've seen about a lot of other first-person shooters like Doom, Destiny, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, just to name a few, all of them are either like in a like post-apocalyptic, i.e. Doom, or war scenario.
There's also
Destiny.
the futuristic. However, there is
True.
one blaring thing we do need to think. First-person shooters have guns.
They do. Yes.
Not necessarily.
Not all of them.
What first?
Borderlands, it has a sword. Call of Duty, it has a sword.
I was
Melee
thinking
weapons.
I was thinking Heretic. There are no firearms in Heretic.
This is true.
Yeah, no, you got a
Heretic
point.
is a first-person shooter without
I have
guns.
no idea what Heretic is.
It is basically like the fantasy version of Doom.
Yeah, no, it is.
You had a
It really
bunch
is.
of wands.
So technically, in that aspect, you can
It'd
consider
be a high
the,
fantasy first-person
Yeah.
shooter.
you can consider the wands as a gun because you're casting magic.
But shooters must have ranged weaponry. They don't need to be firearms, but they have to be
So
ranged.
would that make Gauntlet Legends and third-person shooter then?
Yes.
Oh, with the archer, yeah.
No, all of them. In Gauntlet Legends, everybody has ranged attacks. The entire gimmick of it is ranged attacks.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
no,
a
it's true.
third-person shooter then, but we're talking about first-person shooters.
This is what we call tangents, and I'm
Yup.
good at them.
Yeah. Back on track.
So here's my question. Difference between a first-person shooter and a third-person shooter is obviously you're
Camera
in
perspective.
camera perspective. What about the one that's in between? That it's right over your shoulder? Because that's not classified as a third-person shooter.
So
But it's not a second-person shooter because a second-person perspective would be looking at the player character and what's behind them.
Yeah.
You can't have a
So-
shooter when you can't see what's in front of you.
most of those views that I know of, you can change it between first and third.
Yeah. Same here.
and it would be more classified as a like 1.5 in my opinion.
So similar to Metal Gear.
Yeah.
Which is considered a first-person shooter, except
slightly changed camera view.
Yeah.
Or like the Battlefield series, or at least Star Wars Battlefront. You can switch from first to third.
True. Yeah.
How does that change the shooting aspect?
In my opinion,
Because doesn't COD have that?
Yeah.
COD has it, especially in BO6.
Black Ops 6. Yep. Black Ops 6 Zombies, you can change from first person to third person. And in my opinion, third person's a bit harder to operate than first person, but that also depends on the person. Because I've heard of some people who play it better in third rather than first, but it all depends on the person.
It also drastically depends on the game.
True.
Between Call of Duty and Fortnite, I can play Fortnite in third person far better than I can in COD, and vice versa with first person. Because Fortnite did make a first person mode.
I did not know that about Fortnite.
Yep. A lot of people, at least a lot of people I know personally, don't do the first person because it messes with your mobility. When you're first person, it changes how you're going to move, while third person, you see yourself moving.
Is because in first person, you have a much narrower field of vision.
Is that why anytime that we play an FPS, y'all tell me to bring up my field of view?
Yes.
Yep. It's a lot easier to see everything versus so narrow.
Yep.
So other than, obviously, some sort of ranged projectile launching mechanism and ammo count, what really defines a first-person shooter? Other than, the obvious of, hey, I'm in first person. And for those that don't know what first person is, it's basically how you see the world.
The first person is the camera view is essentially your face. For those who don't
through your eyes.
Yes, through your eyes.
Really, to me, it'd be more... I classify things like Call of Duty and, depending on the view, of Fortnite, I classify those more first person than...
I see those as more first person than, say, Metal Gear.
Or Doom. Because there's some Dooms where you change it to third person. I think Doom 3 was third?
Doom 3 is third person.
And so I saw that more as a third person because it changed the aspect of the game.
But in a lot of people's opinions, Doom 3 was the literal worst Doom.
Yeah. Oh, it changes mobility. That's another thing that defines what a first person is your mobility.
Yeah.
And lack thereof, the versatility of the mobility or restrictions of mobility? What do you mean by no mobility for it?
A bit of both,
So in Call of Duty, they don't really have vaulting unless you're in third person. And if you do, it feels weird because you're not used to the camera going sideways. While in third person, your body may go sideways, but your camera stays straight.
Yeah.
Interesting.
In first person for Black Ops 6, when you're vaulting over a ledge, it will literally look like you're vaulting over and kind of shift as you're going up and over.
The camera will move with you.
The camera will move
third
with
person.
you. Third person, the camera will just stay there as your character vaults over. And then it'll zoom back into where it should. In third person, when you're going up, it'll be where it is. And then as you're doing the vault, it'll move away slightly. You vault over, it'll move back, and you just keep going.
Yeah. So mobility based on camera motions. And I know some people, they can't handle first person because they get sick.
Yep.
From motion sickness.
It's why I can't do VR.
Yep.
Me personally, I'm just a fan of first person just because that's what I'm used to. So, and that's what I've always played on is first person. And I have done third person, and I've absolutely disliked it every time I have. But that's just me.
Do you think the first person perspective makes it more immersive than like a third person?
A little bit, yeah. Because in first person, you can essentially... So take Doom for example. I'm going to use Doom Eternal. If you're in third person, it's kind of like you're watching the Doomslayer go about his,
Murderous
demon
rampage.
killing rampage, because angriest man alive, main target demons. In first person, it's like you're playing. It's like you're
the one doing it.
Exactly. It's like you're the one doing it. I feel like a first person is a little bit more immersive in the feeling aspect. Like you feel more in line with how the character is supposed to be thinking and stuff like that.
It's like why God of War isn't a shooter.
Exactly. That's why God of War is a third person. Exactly.
So would the big difference be the fact of first persons typically don't have a story?
No,
Yes and no.
because you
It
have
depends
first
on the
persons
version of it.
Yeah, you have first persons like Doom. The Doom franchise, other than 3, is a first person story driven game. Technically, you could count the Call of Duties and Black Ops as a story driven first person because of the campaign.
No, not just that, but look at zombies.
Exactly.
Zombies have a whole storyline now.
Mm-hmm. Jeez, zombies have a storyline spanning multiple games.
Yep. But it's like why what's the name of it? Crap, I can't remember the name of that game.
Which they thinking
It's a
of?
third-person shooter, but it has a Gears of War. It's a third-person shooter, but it's not way out third-person. It's closer into that half area.
Mm-hmm.
So over the shoulder.
Not quite. It's like
So like Warframe?
similar, yeah, like Warframe,
Okay.
but it's driven by the story.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't complete the story quest, you don't move on. While with Call of Duty, you have both directions to go.
So does that tie into the fact of Call of Duty is more directed towards a MMO more so than single player?
They're more directed towards MMO.
Yes.
So
And
does
that's
that make a
the-
difference as far as when it comes down to the lack of story? Are the ones that are lacking story more directed towards MMO?
I would,
And how does that?
Yes and no, because you got stuff like Apex Legends, which is a battle royale, but it still has some story aspects to it because of, like, say, the character backgrounds and how some of the characters tie into characters from different games, i.e., one of my favorite characters to play in Apex, Valkyrie. Her father, I believe, was one of the main bad guys in the Titanfall 2 storyline,
Which happens to be your favorite game?
which happens to be my favorite game. Yes. Oh god, I could talk for days about Titanfall 2.
it really does depend on that aspect, though.
Yeah, it does.
Because Call of Duty has been driven off of MMO for a long time, and Ghost was a big example of why they need to stick to more zombies,
Mhm.
because they got rid of zombies in Ghost. It turned into an alien themed style of Ghost,
And there
or
were
style of
some
zombies.
yeah, and there were some people who hated it, some people who loved it, and some people
others
who
were
just
neutral.
didn't care.
I was neutral. It didn't really. It had a story for Ghost. It didn't have a story for the rest of the Call of Duty.
Don't get me wrong,
I mean, wasn't the game kind of named after him?
It was named after him, but they left it on a cliffhanger,
yeah,
and they
Oh.
never created another one because it tanked that hard compared to all the others.
Oh wow.
But that's part of the reason why storylines are important.
yep.
Zombies
Storylines can give
make
you
or break.
make or break a game, give you details about a character that you didn't know. If you just say like Call of Duty, if you're just doing Call of Duty for the multiplayer,
Mhm.
you might hear a voice line from your character, or just see a character like, where did this person come from? And you won't know unless you do the story aspect of it, which is the campaign.
Like the character Ghost
Exactly, because Ghost
or Soap.
or Soap. Take Ghost for example.
So
Don't worry.
Soap?
Don't worry.
Soap is a main character of the Call of Duty franchise.
More specifically, the Modern Warfare line.
Yeah.
But needs to say, take Ghost for example. There's a reason hardly anybody knows who Ghost's real name is, unless it's the group he rolls with, and there's a reason he has his face constantly covered. Because
he's got a Joker smile. Gotta be.
no, if you really want to know, and
No.
spoiler alert for
No, we won't put spoilers.
It's not really a spoiler, it's common knowledge now. The story for Ghost is the reason why he's called Ghost is his alias, his actual name. That person is considered dead,
Sounds about right.
which is why he goes by Ghost.
Yep. Call of Duty, the Call of Duty skull.
Yep.
Famous skull on Call of Duty.
The famous skull
That is
mask.
Ghost.
Yeah, I'm aware.
That whole game of Ghost, that's where it all came from.
Yep.
That was his backstory. And although it was a great campaign, I loved the campaign of it.
Oh, the campaign was
It-
glorious.
They didn't really do a bunch of multiplayer and didn't do a lot of zombies.
There
That's where they
there were a couple Call of Duty games that were just not good.
What are some of the other first-person shooters other than Call of Duty? Granted, I would
Borderlands.
probably
Borderlands.
I would think Call of Duty is probably one of the biggest FPSs out there.
I would have to
By
disagree. Yes, it's one of the biggest. It is not I would consider there's another one that's around the same level as it, and that would be Destiny 2.
Third person.
It's still third person.
He was talking
At some
First
points.
person.
Destiny 2 is still first person. It has both. There are some parts in it. Say you're not on your Sparrow. You're just running around. You're in first person. You hop on your Sparrow or the hoverboard. You go into third person. You're using the grapple from the new Strand subclass. You're still in first person. Your supers, those are third person. Some supers are, some supers aren't. Take the Titan bubble, for example. That goes into third person, and you see your character extend their arms out and bubble.
So what are some of the other big ones then?
Solar super for Titan. Flaming Maw. Your person just literally, boom, hammer. Still in first person. But that first person lasts for about a second before you go into third person, and you see your character slam the flaming hammer of death down.
Other ones are like
Halo.
Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah. Rainbow Six Siege is a bit more of a tactical first person, from what I've known.
If I had to say out of the three of us who would be the best at Rainbow Six Siege, it'd be him.
It would be Chaos, just because of how tactically he thinks.
It is pure tactical. You cannot go guns blazing. Not like Call of Duty.
Not,
So I can't do what Shagudo does.
no.
No. In that one, you want to
Be tactical.
barricade.
You want
Find
to
a
It's basically how I normally play
you
COD.
want to hold up in a specific area with 2 or 3 other people, barricade it, and watch every point of entry to that spot.
like you would do with your shock charges in Call of Duty.
Shock
Yeah.
charges, prox alarms, blast traps.
Mm-hmm.
You were gonna say something?
Halo is also a big one.
Halo
It is
is a
true, yes.
huge one.
Yeah.
I forgot about Halo.
Halo is up there.
I think Halo probably started like the big craze for FPS.
Halo is what got a lot of people into FPS and what drove Call of Duty to go big.
Yep.
People talk about how toxic Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was, the original one.
That ain't got nothing on Halo lobbies.
Halo lobbies were the top of the toxic.
Oh, yeah.
Kids nowadays will not know the Xbox lobbies and just the amount of cussing and slurs that were in.
Oh
which
yeah.
started
A
with
Victorian child would not survive a minute in a OG Halo lobby. They would die of shock within a
Yeah.
minute.
Halo 2 lobby, because original
Ooh,
Halo,
those were especially bad.
yeah, the original Halo only had local multiplayer.
Yep.
You have to hook up other Xboxes.
Yep.
Yup.
That was back when they didn't have online completely.
You had to hook other systems up to each other.
So would that mean that Halo is the reason FPSs are as big as they are today?
In my
I would
opinion,
say,
yeah. They grew as big as they are because of Halo.
And
Would you concur with that? Not much.
Yeah, I think so. It's just
Yeah.
because
I can't think of any FPSs before Halo,
Doom.
but after
Doom.
well, other than Doom, but Doom only had one iteration, one or two iterations
Two.
before that.
you had Doom 64 and Doom.
But I can't think of anything other than maybe Doom that was big.
Before that was
Before
big
Halo, that
That was
Before,
that
yeah.
big. No.
And then after Halo, I
Everything went big.
Call of Duty, Gears of War. Those are the two I know of.
And that brings up a thing of a lot of people mix up what third and first persons are.
They really do.
It's why I asked for the differences between first,
It's-
third, and over the shoulder.
It's really hard to define the difference between first and third
It is.
for that reason. Because if you look at games like
I know one of the biggest ones I have issues with, Metal Gear. More so Metal Gear Solid line. Metal Gear Solid is a third-person thing, but it's considered an FPS, a first-person shooter, because when you go to actually aim your gun, you're in first person.
Yep. same
Because
with-
trying to actually like hit fire in that third-person camera in any of the Metal Gear Solid games is a pain in the ass.
It's kind of the same way with one of the newer games that came out recently called Helldivers 2. It's
Straight hip fire, isn't it?
no, the game is your character is in third person, but when you're firing, you can tap L3 or R3, one of the two, to go
If you're on
into
PlayStation.
you can go into first person view with your gun, but that's only aiming and that's only firing.
So does that make a difference in a first-person shooter? If you're normally in third person, but when you're firing, you go to first. Does that change how good it feels as far as when playing?
Yes. Me personally, I would rather stay clear of stuff like that.
So you don't like Helldivers 2 because of that mechanic?
The only reason I like Helldivers 2 as much as I do is plain and simple, just a pure level of shenaniganry you can pull off in that game. Oh, you got a big ass monster coming towards you? 500 kilogram lawn dart of freedom just blowing up in its face.
The mechanic of that is what turned Fortnite from third person solo to a first person as well. Because they introduced that mechanic.
Yeah.
They introduced scopes where you zoom in, you go into the scope.
Yeah. Going back to Helldivers 2, yes, it is a technical kind of looter shooter because you are going around collecting supplies, shooting, getting better guns, getting better armor. However, you have the one planet in the middle, Super Earth. And then around it on three sides, you have robots, bugs, and space squids now. And any given time you're looking at that map, you can go to a sector, click on the you can hover over the sector, see how many players, actual players, are in that sector at a time. I think one time when I was playing it, I hovered over a bug sector and I saw 43,672 people in that sector alone. And you can go on to click, you can actually click on the sector to view the planets in that sector, and you can hover over a planet, essentially see the same thing of how many people are on that planet. And the thing about Helldivers 2 is it's all operated by a single person. Game Master Joel is a benevolent SOB because he can change or he can make stuff appear, make stuff disappear.
So congratulations, you're a pawn in his game
Literally.
of God.
No, literally. You literally are. Prime example. One of the times I was playing with some of my
You're too bad
friends,
at the game. You don't get to respawn.
No. One of the times when I was playing Helldivers 2 with my friends, we were fighting the bugs. All of a sudden, big armored bug started charging at one of my friends. All of a sudden, just went poof. Just straight up poof. Popped out of existence. No blood, nothing, just charge, disappear. And it was like, it would disappear for a couple seconds, reappear 30 feet that way, charging towards someone else, and then it would disappear again, and then reappear like 30 feet a different direction, charge towards someone else.
Okay.
And Joel can choose what happens on planets.
Okay, enough about the particulars of Helldivers 2. What other mechanics would there be in first-person shooters can like make or break the experience? Like,
I'd say skills.
Like aiming.
Aiming, it goes down to something that makes or breaks the first-person shooters is frames per second, including aiming-wise.
Yeah.
The other thing I know of is drop.
The drop shots.
Drop shots. Oh god, drop shots.
Aerodynamics of the bullet dropping.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Bullet distance.
I know
travel distance.
Sniper Elite, there's a setting where you can have it to where, where my crosshairs are, that's where it's aiming.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could do it like actual sniper and has drop shot.
Yeah.
As well
Bullet
as
drop.
wind.
Yeah, bullet drop. I remember back in, I believe...
Does that change how the aspect of casual or
yes,
competitive?
Very much. Because I actually have a small little story about that. Back during Warzone in Modern Warfare 2, there was one sniper that if you were aiming down sights like 3 miles away, it didn't matter how far away you were, if the enemy you were aiming at was in your crosshairs, the second you pulled that trigger, they were dead. There was no bullet travel time, no bullet drop, and there was one sniper that did that. Every other sniper that you found or brought into that had travel time and bullet drop. There was just one that was the second you clicked that button, they were dead.
And the older Call of Duties didn't have bullet drop.
No, they didn't have travel time. They didn't have bullet drop. It's just straight bullet.
It wasn't until probably the mid-teens of the 2000s that they finally introduced it.
I'd say anywhere from 2013 to 2015 sound about right?
Roughly.
Yeah.
One of the other things I can think of as far as that changes an FPS, at least for me, is real versus fantasy.
Yeah, I can see it.
Call of Duty versus Borderlands.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, a gun that you could sit there and just hold and never runs out of ammo?
Or that you throw and the gun itself becomes a literal grenade.
The only problem I have comparing those two is Borderlands to me is more of a looter game than anything.
It's
Borderlands
a
is
looter
more
shooter.
is more of a
But
looter shooter.
is that not a subgenre of first-person shooter?
It
It's
is.
not actually.
Really?
So that is its own actual subclass, just like FPS is. The more subclasses of FPS itself is battle royale, single player, and multiplayer.
So there really is a big difference within the fact of, just because you're in first person doesn't make it a first person shooter.
Yep. Because they're all under shooter games, but looter shooter like Borderlands, it's so drastically different, especially in all the mechanics, than Call of Duty or even Gears of War.
Another thing, in my opinion, that would make or break a looter, or no, not even a looter shooter, just shooters, period, is the experience that you have in the game. Like with people going absolutely try hard and just obliterating you, people not doing anything, just AFKing, or hackers.
Here I thought you would say campers.
Campers, yes, they're annoying. However,
They're playing the game.
yeah, they're playing
Here's
the game
my
their
question.
way. They can be easily dealt with if you know how to do it.
Both of you have a lot more experience playing first person shooters. What is actually the difference between a camper and a sniper?
A camper will, no matter what they do, they will always stay in the same spot.
Is
So
that
it
what a
doesn't
sniper
matter.
does?
No.
Because so take Nuketown. A sniper will sit in, we'll say, the blue house, looking at the window, but he's also going to be aware
Of
of
his
every
surroundings.
other surrounding. While a camper is going to go into that room where the window is, go around the bed, and sit there.
A camper will sit in one spot, will find a spot that only has one way in, and they will literally watch that door or watch that opening.
They have a
So,
like a
wall
hawk.
to their
so
back.
speaking of Nuketown, what about in the garage? You've
the
seen where I
garage?
do it, where I lay prone and I aim down that one hallway. Would that be considered camping?
No.
To me, no, because you have so many open ways of getting to you. Just because you block them off with like a spring mine or something doesn't mean you're camping. You are preparing yourself for, you heard that go off, you're moving.
Exactly. A
You're going to
camper
move to
will
either
not move.
replace it or do something else. Camper won't move. He won't go replace it unless someone kills it or unless he kills someone and he's there to do it.
Yeah.
And you don't have a wall to your back. That's my biggest thing. You don't have a wall to your back, so you can just sit there and go.
You don't have a wall on almost all of your sides except that one spot that you're watching. That's the difference between a sniper and a camper. Sniper, once they know they're compromised or they feel like they can, they'll move to a different spot.
That's what I do.
Exactly.
They will
A camper
keep
won't.
moving.
A camper won't. They will stay in the exact same spot. Prime example of this, again, Newtown. The car, middle of the map, on the one side. That one, either
The
back,
Jeep?
Yep, either back corner of those fences is where campers will be.
Yep.
Usually they will be prone and they will stay there for as long as they can.
Now, campers are overly annoying. I don't like them, but it's part of the game.
It's
If
part of the
you
game and
can't
they're easy enough to deal with.
If you cannot adjust to a camper and get them out of where they are, then go a different direction.
Pretty much.
So is that something that is just in at least multiplayer first-person shooters?
I have never played a lobby where there hasn't been at least a camper.
I mean, hell, even in Destiny 2 PvP, where you have 3v3s or 6v6s with, mind-boggling abilities, you'll still get campers using overpowered guns and are just hard scoping, watching through their sights at a specific spot and firing their weapon at the slightest amount of movement.
So far our list for what makes a first-person shooter: range projectile thing that launches them. You're in the view of first person, campers. I think that's about all we got because we keep going on tangents of the differences in the shooters.
And
Right?
usually I'm just too polite to interrupt because especially because I'd be cutting in the middle of something because everything seems like it's the middle of something. now that I have a break, what about weapon choice? Does the choice and availability of weapons change the experience?
In my eyes, yes and no, because the type of weapon you choose can determine how your playstyle is. Take me for example. In Call of Duty, I am usually a SMG main, so I'm quick and aggressive. Chaos over here is more tactical and more long range, so he'll be using stuff like LMGs or snipers and just picking people off at a couple hundred yards, couple hundred meters, getting collapsed almost all the time.
We won't talk about that game.
I think it thoroughly depends on competitive or not.
Yeah.
When you go competitive,
You only use meta guns.
no, you have, especially Black Ops 6 now, you have to be versatile enough to use any gun that's handed to you.
Yeah.
I use weapons like the XM4 and SMGs that run out of ammo quickly. I don't run scavenger because I like the dexterity feat.
Yeah.
And so I have to be versatile to, I'm out of ammo, drop and pick up a random gun.
Yep.
I'm personally versatile, and they've played with me. They see that I pick up weapons all the time because I run out of ammo.
The only weapons he doesn't pick up are mine because they're not
Traditional.
mobility.
Yeah, they're not mobility and they're not
So
traditional.
that brings another question. Does the mobility in those things affect how good it is? Because I know we mentioned the fact of, going over obstacles like vaulting, and just how does whether or not you're moving slow or fast, does that change how a first-person shooter is seen?
No.
I'd say yes and no, because in certain instances in like Destiny 2, you have like the triple jump, the strafe jump, and don't even get me started on the mansplaining in that game. I will go off on a tangent and I will get pissed. I don't even want to get started on that, but the mobility in Destiny 2 is astronomical, because there are take the Hunter in Destiny 2. The Hunter has a triple jump, and there's a specific exotic piece of footwear called the Stompies that increases your mobility and the distance you jump. Like, there were times when I was triple jumping, I couldn't make a jump. I switched to Stompies. The first time I tried doing the same jump, I make it.
So I would thoroughly say it depends on the game.
Same.
If you go to older Call of Duty, mobility didn't matter about what gun you were carrying. But
So you could run as fast as with a
anybody
pistol
else
as if you're carrying a sniper.
or a rocket launcher. But now, in the newer Call of Duties, it thoroughly depends on what you're carrying. If you have a pistol, or if you have a SMG and a rocket launcher on your back, it'll take into consideration the rocket launcher on your back, and it'll slow you down.
My sniper class has got the sniper and then the siren special. I move really slow. The sniper, as soon as I put that away and take out my siren, I'm moving a lot faster. Yeah. Or if I take out my knife, I'll move even faster than that.
It's why with my knife build in BO6, I have SMG pistol knife with all the mobility perks. Because now I am the fastest on the field unless someone's running something similar. But if I switch that SMG to, say, an LMG, it'll almost cut me in half, speed-wise. And then it also depends on the switching mobility of switching your weapons.
Yeah.
Pulling out an LMG is a lot slower.
Similar to
even
what
away.
Not much brought up as far as in Call of Duty, you have multiple forms of pistols, What if you didn't have that? Would that still affect where you get, here's your LMG, here's your sniper? Does that affect as far as, yes, you have different types of guns, but different types of those types? Does that change how things work with the first person shooters?
Take Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal, for example. You don't have your loadout. You have the wheel of what weapons you can choose.
So similar to like BioShock.
Would
BioShock be a first person?
Yes, I would consider it a first person. You?
I would consider it more of a third than anything, because
you're only ever in first person.
While that's true, the reason I say third is because it's not a lot of first persons, especially nowadays, they all have multiplayer. All of them.
Yeah.
And most of those, so if you go back a decade, it's first person.
Yeah.
It thoroughly depends on the decade.
I mean,
so time period takes into consideration as far as at least what a multiplayer, because there still is single first-person shooters,
Yeah.
right?
Like Doom. Going
Well,
back
my
to
first
Doom,
thought would be Sniper Elite.
yeah, that too.
Nowadays, I can't think of a new game that came out that was first person.
No.
That's not multiplayer?
That's not multiplayer, or doesn't have the option of multiplayer.
Well, to be fair, I can't think of a whole lot of games that are coming out nowadays that are just straight solo, that aren't remakes of older games.
I mean, yeah.
Due to the money right now in making video games right now is multiplayer.
Yeah.
Especially
So-
trying to do cross-platform. I think Baldur's Gate was one of the last ones that came out that was only solo, but even still, you can do multiplayer. It's only up to 4, but...
And it's an RPG.
Yeah. Going
Yeah.
back to the topic that you brought up of what weapons can do what, like I was talking, Doom has the weapon wheel, but you have different weapons for different scenarios. Like sometimes you'll have to use old reliable in Doom, which is just a normal shotgun, or sometimes you'll have to do stuff from range, so you'll take out
that
like,
brings up a
the
valid
rail
point.
gun cannon.
That
Gears of War.
it's something that I noticed, at least in COD, at least my little bit of experience, different maps. So different settings, different guns are better on those maps.
Yeah.
Oh no, 100%. Different maps
Nuketown,
or in different guns.
LMGs, not great.
Not unless you have someone behind you keeping track of you.
Or
Yeah,
take
but
that
like
game
Scud,
mode.
Sniper, and an LMG,
Yeah.
you're fine.
Take game mode from Call of Duty, for example, as well. It also depends on that too. Say you're on a map that's great for snipers, but you're playing a game mode that's not. Would you still use a sniper, or would you use something else?
Well, I don't know because I didn't play that.
Exactly.
My experience in Call of Duty have only been the past 2, other than Zombies, which is Cold War, which the only reason I have is for zombies, because that's the only one that has zombies.
I'm saying this based off of Black Ops 6.
So what he's talking about is more like if you get Scud, which is LMGs and snipers, but you get kill confirmed. Are you still going to run sniper?
Yeah.
True, because
Depends on the person.
Yeah, true, because you can make points for other people to drown.
Yep.
Or shut down people from gaining your team's points.
Or it's like how I play Domination.
Domination, I would not run a sniper on a Domination.
I leave it to you guys to take care of the points, and I just go start and killing.
Yeah. You just go on a rampage.
If I'm doing something like Domination or Hardpoint, I'm probably going LMG or Assault Rifle.
Yeah.
And I know you will take care of that, so it really also depends on
Who you're
Team.
playing with.
Mm-hmm.
if you're by yourself, it changes everything about it.
Another aspect, at least for multiplayer, people that grief. Does that make or break
Very much.
the FPS?
Yes, very much so.
As far as how does that change it?
It changes skill levels.
Yeah.
It's like if someone went on to League of Legends.
Well, League of Legends, if you have somebody sitting there feeding an enemy person, they're only going to get stronger from them getting kills.
Yeah.
That I see as a completely different aspect than, great, you get more kills. I mean, yeah, I guess with I forget what they're called, score streaks. I mean, yeah, especially if somebody gets like, chopper gunner.
Yeah. Or if you're running 4 of them like I do.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
If
let's
I have
just
someone griefing,
let's,
what's up?
let's just hold it for a second. What
You got it.
is griefing?
So griefing
That's actually a
is-
good point.
Griefing to me is where you have someone who is either AFK and moving every once in a while to stay in the game, but getting killed, and someone is purposely getting those kills to increase themselves.
For me,
Or
it's something.
someone who is quite literally purposely running up to an enemy, not shooting them, and getting killed.
The way I see griefing is more for the fact that with League, people that literally, I'm losing my lane and they're just flaming in chat and literally just clicking on the other side of the map and just walking and just dying to turrets because they're losing and they want out.
But
by the same aspect, could that be people who, because they die, a bunch of times, like we've done it in one of our games where we kept getting spawn killed, we just left the game. Would that be griefing?
So that, in my opinion, royally depends on what is happening.
Take the game me and you played, for example. We loaded in with a full team on Red Card in Black Ops 6.
Everybody DC'd.
But me and you DC'd, and that game was a
Absolute nightmare.
yeah.
okay,
And that's putting it lightly.
I think that's too specific, though.
So it's like,
I would think griefing is hampering your teammates in a
Purposely.
way
Purposely,
That-
yeah.
is only to do it harmfully. If you are at least trying and just having a really bad game, I don't see that as griefing. If you're going out of your way to harm your team, I see that as griefing.
Yeah.
So
No,
it is
100%.
a griefer is a purposefully malicious player.
Yeah.
To be fair, by just the definition of malicious, me running around just trying to get killed on one of the maps while I'm holding a Molotov could be seen as both griefing and not.
But
I would
that's
say
also
not
a
because
valid
you
strategy.
have a valid strategy
Yep.
behind it. If you were running around with your gun out, not shooting, not trying to kill him, and you're just getting killed, that's griefing.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm just running around with the Molotov, dying, dropping said Molotov, and getting 2 or 3 kills
somehow being the top of the leaderboard by just suiciding.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
still can't believe that's how that
difference.
I still can't believe that's how we ended up winning. Is if me and you were running around with Molotovs, we were top of the leaderboard by suicide.
But at that point, you weren't trying to be purposely malicious. You were actually trying to be strategic.
Exactly. So it goes down to you're not trying to get the kills. You're not trying to help your team. You are purposely dying just to die.
So a good example would be the dude who every time they could would run the exact same way, knowing there's a sniper there, just to get sniped.
Which that's a yes and no. If he had it
on Scud.
That also borders on the definition of insanity. Continuously trying to do the same thing, even though you know it won't work.
Yeah. Because
okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah, because
the amount of people I see keep trying to go down the one side.
Yeah, because griefing requires intent.
It does.
It does. No, wholeheartedly requires intent.
Like I've gone against a sniper where he keeps hitting me, but I'll go back there because I know I will get hit, and I've done it. I've died about 6 times, got him, and he never went back because I wouldn't let him. So it really does depend on the intent behind it as well.
Okay, another point of controversy, this time with weapons and availability. How do you feel about grenade launchers?
They're a valid strategy.
Valid strategy, and in my eyes, sometimes can be situational.
So my big thing with things like grenade launchers or missile launchers is their friendly fire.
If not,
if
balls to the walls, go ham.
If my teammate is running and they have a missile launcher and they blow up and they launch a missile and I am 2 feet next to where it detonates and I don't take damage, go for it.
Exactly.
If you are running and knowing for a fact that what they are using is going to kill your teammates in the blast fire, no.
Take Modern Warfare 2 or 3, for example. Shipment on non-hardcore. A valid strategy was the grenade launcher that had like 6 to 8 rounds in the mag and just go on a corner and just pop, 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 and pray to God you get a kill.
It's a valid strategy if it's not competitive. Because
Exactly.
in my eyes, hardcore mode is competitive.
Oh, yeah.
You are borderlining
100%.
competitive, and that's where it turns into use it. And if you can use it without killing your teammates, more to you.
Use it at your own risk.
Okay, I think we're about to wrap up here. So, to recap, first-person shooter. Things that are required are a first-person perspective and range weaponry. Something you expect from first-person shooters, at least in multiplayer, is definitely camping.
Definitely.
You're always going to have campers no matter what kind of shooter it is.
Camping, griefing, and tryhards.
Yep. Also, you're going to get hackers from time to time as well.
I don't think you can get a game nowadays that's multiplayer that you don't have hackers.
Oh, yeah, no. No, there's no way.
But do you also expect it to mainly be in like a post-apocalyptic or a wartime setting?
In the mainstream right now for first persons, yeah. I don't think other than Warframe and Destiny, there really is any sci-fi.
Cyberpunk 2077 is technically a shooter, technically first person, not post-apocalyptic, and not wartime. Granted, it's also considered a looter shooter just because of how you play
it
the
would
game.
be more looter.
But it's still a shooter.
But we're talking about first person, not looter shooters. That's a different episode.
That's true. I mean, technically, I'm wrong, but not wrong at the same time.
Yeah, because
It's
Halo is sci-fi, but it's a wartime setting.
Exactly.
it's wartime sci-fi.
Wartime is definitely one to expect.
Yeah.
There are a lot of shooters, especially first person, that are war based
Yes.
in some fashion.
For obvious reasons.
Yep.
And typically PvP.
Yeah.
More so than PvE.
I mean,
Nowadays.
hell, even Destiny 2 is considered wartime just because of what's happening on it in the storyline. Yeah.
So I don't think there's any of the shooters that aren't wartime based.
Because even if you branch off into like Borderlands, it's still wartime and it's
Sort of.
post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
And
It's post-apocalyptic sci-fi wartime.
And technically, in Doom, you're at war against demons.
Same with Gears of War. You're at war with the
And some sort of infested type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of it at the moment,
I mean, zombies, it's a push. You're a war against zombies. It's like,
but it's post-apocalyptic.
yeah,
It's post-apocalyptic survival is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I can't think of any that aren't wartime.
No, neither can I.
Wartime is a staple.
It is. 100%.
However, if any of our listeners can think of some, please let us know.
Send it in.
And of course, these episodes are by no means exhaustive either, because I recognize that there's huge gaps in my knowledge. Nobody can ever know anything, so we can come back to these episodes. And if you think we should, if there's something we missed, again, if you can think of any proper first-person shooters that aren't either post-apocalyptic or wartime setting, send them to gamersperience@gmail.com, all lowercase, at gamersperience on X, formerly known as Twitter. We do have a YouTube channel, Gamersperience Podcast, and also a Discord server, links of which are in every video on YouTube in the description and on our pinned X post.
Or if we got any information wrong.
Yeah. Let us know if we got anything wrong.
Yeah, that too,
That's good,
especially. And thank you, Norm and Shagudo, for lending your vast experience of first-person shooters to this episode.
Of course.
And with that, I'm Not Much 23.
And I'm ChoasAssassin.
This is Gamer Experience, and as always, we invite you to go have your own Gamer Experience.